All right, there we go. Okay, so we're on Yud Tesam Beis. 2 lines up from the bottom. So basically what we had in the Mishna, that there is, whether there's 5 levels of Kedusha or 4 levels of Kedusha, right? 6 levels, I'm sorry. So the first level was eating chulin with Kedusha, then there was Meiser, then the next level up is Terumah, then Kodesh, and then Meichatas. What? Yeah. So those are the levels. So from that we learn. So that's Omar. So that's basically what we said yesterday. So Omar Rav Mori Shmami no. So we hear from this. Chulin shenaso taras hakodesh ki kodesh. Dami chulin that's made taras hakodesh is considered like kodesh, right? So what's chulin shenaso taras hakodesh? Basically, is somebody who's eating your plain old chulin, which means it doesn't. You could eat chulin as regular food. You could eat it as your tummy. You could eat it whatever you want. But somebody wants to be a fruma, so he eats his chulin as if it was kodesh, right? And Rashi says the reason why the person wants to do it is he wants to get his kids used to it. My mashal, I think the mashal to understand this was those guys that wear the masks when they're driving in their car. Like, why are you wearing a mask in your own car with nobody else in it, right? So they'll say because they want to eat chulin shenasal taras hakodesh, meaning they want to keep themselves. They want to keep themselves used to wearing masks, so they do wear it all the time. So here too, sometimes everybody needs to be Isaac in Kodesh. So he wants to make sure that his family keeps the highest level, right? So chulin shenasal taras hakodesh ki kodesh, so then it has the same din as kodesh, right? And meaning, so if the person ends up getting not watching it properly, so it's going to have the same status. It's going to have the same status as kodesh, right? So the Gemara says, how do we know? Wait a second, right? So mimai, how do you know? And now we're on Talmud Aleph. Since it doesn't say another mila of somebody who eats chulin al taras hakodesh, meaning we said that's 5 levels of kedusha in the Mishna, right? Why didn't it say 6 levels? If you're saying chulin al taras hakodesh is another level, so why didn't it say 6 levels? That's it. Since it didn't do that, so it must be that's not. It must be it's the same as kodesh. It's not a separate madrega. So Gemara asks, maybe the reason why I didn't say a mila, Terumah, hatani Terumah, because what's the choices? It could be like Terumah, so then it's like Terumah. Vidam lechulin, hatani lechulin. Meaning it's not. There's not going to be a separate level. Either you're eating chulin, you're eating meiser. It's not going to be meiser, so that wasn't an option, right? But it's going to either be chulin, it's going to be Terumah, it's going to be kodesh. So that's covered, right? So the Tanya, because you learned chulin and shenas al taras hakodesh, chulin that was done al taras hakodesh, rein chulin. It's like chulin. Rabbi Elazar tzaddik am rein Terumah. He says it's like Terumah, right? So therefore, there's no raya from our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, "Ela mid sefer." It must be from the sefer of the Mishnah, right? So we said in the sefer of the Mishnah, Yosef ben Yezer kahuna. He was a chassid in the kahuna. Meaning he was a very from person. And his, what do we call him, mitvachtay? Shmata, whatever, right? Medras l'kodesh. His shmata was a medras l'kodesh. Meaning, we said again, medras is a special tumah that if somebody who's tameh sits on it, if it's meant to be sat on or stood on or laid on, then that has a tumas medras. So, and there's different levels, right? There's, like we said, there's different levels of tumas medras. So even though he's eating everything with kedusha of Terumah, right? Because he was a kohen, he was a chassid of a kahuna. But for kodesh, he wasn't up to par. And somebody who was eating everything al taras kodesh is gonna be considered tameh if they sat on his handkerchief or whatever it is, even though he is eating al taras Terumah. So that was one. He ate actually al taras kodesh. In his handkerchief was medras l'chatas. Somebody who did the mechatas, right? Somebody who took the water to mix it in with the Ephra Para. So that's considered the holiest. So this person was also Even his was really considered a tumah for that. L'chatas in the Kodesh life. But you see, it's only for chatas, but for Kodesh, it's considered Kodesh, even though he wasn't always eating Kodesh. He just kept all his food on the level of Kodesh. So you see in our Mishna that chulin that was made, that is eaten with Taras HaKodesh has the same level of Kodesh. Right? So that's how we know that if somebody decides to be frub, and he uses his he eats his regular foods with Taras HaKodesh, and then that has the same level of kedusha. It's not any lower of a level. Fine. Okay, so then Amar Rav Yonasan ben Elazar, Nafla ma'afarte himenu. Now we're going to get into also, like yesterday, 2 days ago, we learned that when you're toivel for something, you have to have in mind which level of tumah. So when you're toivel for Ma'aser Sheni, so then you're good for Ma'aser Sheni, but you're not good for Terumah. And if you do toivel for Terumah, you're not good for Kodesh, etc., etc. Right? So we're going to see the same thing with Shahira. Right? When you're watching for something of one level Tumah, and if you forget it for a second, then you're done. Right? It's not exactly the same case, but meaning Kavana is everything. That's basically what comes out. With Tumah and Tara, Kavana is everything. So let's see. Someone of Yonasan ben Elazar, Nafla ma'afarte himenu. Let's say his jacket fell from him. Right? So he said to his friend, Tnoli, give me my jacket. But Nasnalayan, the friend gave it to him. Tameya, that jacket now is considered Tameh. Right? Because when the other person picked it up, he's masiach daas from it. The owner of the jacket was masiach daas. And how do you know that other person wasn't Tameh? Right? Yeah. So you're going to say, what do you mean? He watched it the whole time. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha later on. But the bottom line is when somebody else picks up your jacket, you have no idea what his status is, and that's considered hesef hadas, and that's it. So then it's it's out. It's tamei.
Could also ask him if he's tamei, and if he's not tamei, then it won't be tamei, maybe.
Yeah, but I think it's also more than that. That once you dropped your jacket, so that means you're already not on the ball. I don't know. I guess you could drop it by mistake. I mean, I'm assuming everybody drops the jacket.
I mean, yeah. I'm just imagining when your hat flies off in the wind, you pay more attention to your hat than you did before.
True, that is true. Yeah. So okay, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, why don't you just enter? Is he trustworthy? I don't know. There was Rashi when you see Rashi says Vafilu zeh tahar. Right, so he says even if the person's tahar, right? So even if he says he's tahar, it's still going to be a problem because it seems like you weren't watching it properly. So since you weren't watching it properly, so then it's a problem. Yeah, fine, right. Let's say you go into your closet and you're trying to take out your weekday clothing, and you took out your Shabbos clothing, right? The kelim shechalu lavshan, and you wear them. Nitmu, then they're going to be tamei too. Yeah. Why? Because clearly you weren't focusing. Right? So you how could you possibly have been watching it? Yeah. So therefore that's also not considered shomer, and it's considered tamei. And over Rabbi yeah.
Yaakov, I don't understand what does that mean? I mean, just what is it? Before I was taking out my suit, I was thinking about it. Reb Chaim thinks about his suit, his beautiful sweater all the time. What I thought he's thinking about all the ritvas in Psachim. What was he thinking about his sweater? What?
No, but when he went into the closet, right? So he thought he's taking out his weekday clothing, and he took out his Shabbos clothing.
Okay.
So then he becomes tamei. Right?
Why?
Because that meaning he must have known if he's being tahar, right? If he's trying to be tahar, so he must have known that his weekday suit is tahar.
Okay.
Right. So now he went and he took the Shabbos suit instead. So then he wasn't properly watching the suit for those few minutes.
His suit was in the closet the past 18 hours. He wasn't watching it then either.
No, doesn't it mean he wasn't washing his hands? Where his hands were going?
No, this is more. No, meaning if you thought that you're taking this suit and you took a different suit, that means that whatever shmira you thought you had was incorrect.
On your hand.
You got the wrong thing.
You thought you went to the right and you went to the left in your hand.
Correct, Naftali. So you're right. That's what you would think. And the Gemara's chiddush is no, that's not what it is. We consider it like a hesed daas.
I don't understand. Okay. I don't understand.
It's weird because it's not like he took a black suit instead of a seersucker.
That's the
break. It was this black versus that black
suit.
suit.
I don't understand.
Right, no, it's comes out, yes, and yeah, Jesse, any suit that you take differently, that's what it is, right? Any suit you take different that means that basically what it means is that you thought you had things under control and you didn't.
I mean, I get it.
Therefore,
besides Reb Chaim, it makes sense. No, like if I was going to wear a blue suit and I went to put on a black suit, so obviously I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing.
The point is that you're not focusing on what you're doing, and that's it.
Right. So since you're not focused, that's a very good way to put it.
That's it. Yeah.
Since you're not focused, meaning Tumor and Tara requires you to be focused at all times. Can you just imagine the prescriptions for ADHD medication back then? I mean, I can't concentrate on anything for more than 60 seconds. You got to concentrate. You can't even. Right? That's what it is. You lost concentration, and Mamela, since you lost concentration, that means that there's a possibility that there was a tumor that went on there. As far-fetched as it sounds, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like anybody really thinks that a sheret landed on your Shabbos suit. I think maybe I'm wrong. Now, it's just hey, if you want to keep to the highest levels of tahara, then you have to be vigilant at all times, and you didn't. You dropped the ball. It's like a zero-sum game. I don't know. That's I think, but that's only you and
Dave did very nice explanations. I still don't understand it, so it's fine. Don't stop for me.
No, but I don't want you to think that I fully understand this. I'm just talking the talk. I'm not necessarily walking the walk. It just seems like that's the only way I can understand it. But Enochanami, what are the chances of this thing actually being Talmud? It almost sounds like a knas. Would that be a good way to put it? Like you get knas. You didn't watch properly. You're out. Okay. Then the next case is there's one more case. Two women that are friends, and when they went to the Beis HaMerchatz, when they went to the bathhouse, they swapped clothing. And the Maisa came in front of Reb Kiva, and he said they're tamei. Right?
Simon took Landau's shirt in the mikveh, and Landau took Simon's shirt in the mikveh. You didn't know what they weren't paying attention.
And they both fit. And they both fit. That's
right.
That's happened, by the way. That's happened.
If they fit, then I think they would be balei moifus. Yeah.
I think it's easier. I think it's easier to get mixed up with some other things. You don't want to see him in a tent, you know.
Very good. Anyway, okay. So those are the three cases, which the Gemara is going to go through them at the bottom of the Amud. Yeah. So basically the point is you're masiach daas, then you're over with. So and if you stick your head into a bread basket to take out wheat bread, also be other pasar, and then if you end up with barley bread, are you going to say now that the barley bread is tamei? Why? Because again, like you're asking, what exactly could have possibly happened when you stuck your hand? You knew that you were sticking into something that's tar. So what could have possibly happened when you took out a regular bread as opposed to barley bread? Right? If you're going to say that yes, that would be tamei, that can't be, because Vatani, we have a bride. So there's a mishamer as a chavis, mecheska shel yain. Somebody's watching a barrel with a chazaka that it's wine. V'nimtza is shel shemen, and it ends up being shemen, tahirim elatame. So it's tar. It's tahor from becoming tamei.
Can you make anybody else's stuff tamei or just your own?
If you're watching it, I think only if you have the achrayas to watch it.
Uh-huh.
If you don't have the achrayas to watch it, then it's not. Then you can't. Yeah. So I'll say. So you see clearly that even though you have no idea what's in the barrel, it's still a problem. I'm sorry, it's not a problem. So then why? So then clearly putting the bread in is not a problem. So if that's not a problem, so why pulling out the wrong suit out of the closet? Why is that a problem? So the tamei chem a sefer, but according to you, what about the sefer? V'asuru milechol. It's also to eat it. Meaning the case with you're watching the barrel. You're watching the barrel, and the barrel has oil. You thought the barrel had oil in it. I mean, it had wine in it. It really had oil in it. So it's not tamei, but you can't eat it. Right? Meaning it can't. Why? I mean, either way, it should be one way or the other. Is it tamei or not tamei? So what it is that it's puzzle. It's puzzle, but it's not. It can't be matama anything else. So you're not allowed to eat it. So why can't you eat it? Some of them maybe Aimer, Shmartia midavar matama. Where he's talking about, where he said, I watched it from something that will make it tamei, v'lo midavar hapaisla, not from something that's going to say it's puzzle. We haven't gotten to this yet, but basically. We know that there's Avatoma, there's a Rishon Latoma, Sheni Latoma, Shlishi Latoma, and then Revi Latoma, right? So the Revi is only for Kodesh. It's not for Terumah. Terumah can only go up to a Shlishi, right? Meaning if it goes to a Shlishi and then that Shlishi touches something else, there's nothing wrong with it. So that's called puzzle. For Kodesh, for Hektish, if that fourth thing that it touches, that the Shlishi touches, is Hektish, then it will make the Hektish puzzle. So here is Terumah where the guy said that I'm only watching the oil to make sure that nothing is metame it, but he was not watching it to make sure something will not passel it. So therefore, since he wasn't watching it properly, so therefore you can't eat it. But it's not going to be metame anything else. Okay, so then what it says, is there such a thing as a half watching? Meaning either you were watching it or you weren't watching it. Right? So the word says, yes, there is such a thing like that. But Tanya, we have a brisa that says that somebody sticks his hand into a basket, and the basket is on his shoulders, and there was a shovel in the basket. Okay, so now he has a basket on his shoulder, and he has a shovel in the basket. And all he had in mind to do was watch the basket to make sure it didn't become tummy. And he wasn't thinking about the shovel. So hasal tahor, so the basket is tahor, v'magrefa tameya. The sal is tahor, and the magrefa is going to be tamei. Why? Because he was watching the basket. He wasn't watching the magrefa. Right? So that you see that there's such a thing as watching half and not watching one half of the thing, not the other. Then what I ask, hasal tahor, titma magrefa l'sal. Why is the basket tahor? If you're saying that the shovel that's in the basket is tamei, so then that shovel should go be metama the basket. So when it says "Ain kli matama kli," a kli cannot be matama another kli. That's a different rule that we're going to learn later. Later on in the Masechta. One kli can't make another kli tamah. Okay, so matama masha b'sal. So let at least there's food in the basket. So let the shovel make the food tamah. So Ravina ba'aymer shmartiv midavar shematamu. He said, I'm watching it from anything that's going to make it tamei, but not anything that's going to make it puzzle, like we just said. So tamei, he's watching it for, meaning that it will be able to be matama something else. But for the puzzle, he's not. Whatever it is from this whole thing, you see mikol makom kasha. You see it's a kasha, right? Here we see that the shmira is a good enough shmira. Whatever shmira he had with the barrel of wine and the barrel of oil. We said the bottom line is it was a good whatever his kavanah was, then the shmira is a good shmira, even though he found out that it was the wrong thing inside the barrel. So then how come by those three cases we said that it's not good? So then another kasha, Rabbi had a kasha. It's a very long kasha. This kasha takes almost up the whole Amud. So Maisa be'isha achas, there was a story with a woman. She came in front of Rabbi Shmuel, and she said to him, Rebbe, beged zeh aragte b'tahara. This beged, I wove it b'tahara, v'lo yahayu believe l'shamer b'tahara, but I wasn't careful to make sure that I was watching it. So she wanted to know what the status is, meaning she said she made sure that she herself was tahar, but I guess it means that when she get up to get a drink or whatever, she wouldn't lock it away to make sure it didn't become tummy. Right? So she wants to know what's the status. So Rabbi Yishmael interrogated her a little bit. And from that it came out, Amrullah, she told him, Rebbe, Nida Mashcha Imi Bechevel. Then she remembered that a Nida was pulling the rope with her, meaning you have to do a lot of pulling in for when you weave. So at one point, the Nida came in and pulled with the rope with her. Right? Now maybe she carried it. Right? So, and therefore, when a Nida carries something, it becomes tamei. So even though really it seems like she didn't carry it, she just pulled it. But if theoretically she walked with it a little bit, then she's going to make it tamei. So you see that even though it was not conscious of her under interrogation, she realized, because she wasn't concentrating on keeping a proper shmira, that Itaka was tamei. So Amar Bishmal Kama Gedolim Divrei Chachamim. How great are the words of the Chachamim? Show you Imrim the liba l'shamrei tar. If it was in his heart to watch it, it's tar. Ain't believe l'shamrei tamei. If it's not in his heart to watch it, then it's tamei. Then another ma'isa. Shub ma'isa b'isha achta shabol l'fnei Rabbi Shmuel. There was another woman, Shabos. I'm sorry, l'fnei Rabbi Shmuel. She came in front of Rabbi Shmuel. Amr Eloi. She said, Rebbe, mapazu arakti b'tahara. This shmata, this clothing, I wove it b'tahara. Lo hayya believe l'shamra. But I wasn't concentrated. It wasn't in my heart to watch it. And from the checkings that Rabbi Shmuel checked, Amrullah, she told him, Rebbe, Nima nifsakali, one of the strings broke, right? And I tied it with my mouth. You know, sometimes when people are sewing, so they put it into their mouth. Now, and so the way Rashi explains it is that she was still a nida, right? But that nida is not that's not going to make it tamei. But the thing is, there's a gezerah against. We had this in Shabbos of the Yud Ches gezerahs. So there was if there's liquid from a nida or a zav touches something, then that's going to make it tamei. So maybe when she stuck it into her mouth, there was still saliva on it, and when she sewed it into the beged, it now made the whole beged tamei, right? So Amar Rabbi Shmuel, Kama Gedolim Divrei Chachamim Sheyomer Beliba l'Shamar Tar Ain't Beliba l'Shamar Tamei. If it's in his heart to be shamer, it's tar, and if it's not in his heart, it's tamei. Okay, so therefore you see that people need to be concentrating on their tumah and tara. They need to be concentrating on it extremely well. So now the Gemara says Bishlam Rabbi Elazar Tzadok. Now the Gemara goes through those original three cases. So the case of Rabbi Elazar Tzadok, where the clothing got switched in the merchat. Each one is saying, my friend is the wife of an amoritz who doesn't keep tahara properly. And once they saw that the clothing was taken by the friend, they were masiach daas. So therefore, since they were masiach daas, so therefore it loses its tahara status. Right? That's the case where there's somebody who switched his weekday clothing with his Shabbos clothing. Even the kalim, the Shabbos of a shimur tfei, since somebody watches his Shabbos clothing better than his weekday clothing, so he must show that he didn't properly, he let down his guard, literally, right? Meaning, even though he doesn't want not his weekday clothing and not his Shabbos clothing to become tamei, but everybody watches the Shabbos clothing better. So, and here he got it mixed up, so it must be his shmira was off, right? But according to Yonasan ben Elazar, where the person dropped his clothing and somebody else picked it up, never lose shmira be day the chavre. Why couldn't he watch it while his friend was picking it up? Right, like you said, if David, when you said the hat flew off, so it flies across the street, you keep your eye on it, right? And you see the friend pick it up. And then what's the problem? Why is that considered a hesach daas? So Rav Yochanan, chazaka, the mishamer mashabiyad chaveiroi. No, because there's a chazaka that people don't watch things that are in other people's hands. Right?
We just had fakert in the Musa that you're jealous of everybody. Your mama's watching what they got.
I hear. But maybe you're so jealous that you want to become tamei. Maybe no. And so what I'm saying, what is this teretz? Why isn't he watching it? You don't care about your friend's tahara? Wait a minute, so maybe that fits into it. Maybe that's because of jealousy.
No, you're not watching it. You're trusting your friend that he's watching your hat. So you have hesach daas now.
I'm saying, so why is the friend not watching it? Well, I'm saying, we're saying that the friend doesn't watch it for his other friend. The guy picking it up, right? Why isn't he watching it? What's the problem?
If I know I'm Tomei, should I pick up Reb Chaim's hat or let it roll down the street?
The chayra, you should let it roll down the street.
But what happened to the rice of Shavas Aveda? No?
I don't know. I don't know. Mastam, it's not Hashavas Aveda. He's going to throw it out. No, I don't know. I guess go tell Reb Chaim to hold on and ask him.
You could sell it to the Anikel could sell it to one of the rich guys for $5,000 if he's
right. Aaron, your instinct would run that you would run and pick it up.
Yeah, I hope so. I
would hope, right? Yeah.
So not even thinking whether or not you're Tomei or not, you would just run and pick it up.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's interesting, Shaila. Grata on that same subject. Somebody told me tonight, Shaila.
Maybe that's why you ate him went to Yisrael. He's running a fundraiser this week with Reb Chaim stuff, maybe.
You'd have to cut in the Eidach for too much of it. You wouldn't be left with anything.
Somebody actually told me tonight that Rabbi Yashiv once wrote a check for Matanas Lev Yoinim to a tzedakah, and the guy heard that Rabbi Yashiv wrote the check before Purim. He said, "I'll give you 10 times whatever Rabbi Yashiv did to the tzedakah. Just give me the check. Give me his check." A smart guy, ahead of his time, right?
Right.
And so they were going to give it to him, and then they said, "1 second. If you say that a check is like cash, so then maybe Rabbi Yashiv won't be Yaitza Matanas Lev Yoinim if we don't cash the actual check." I don't know. That was the shaila. Yeah. Only in Eretz Yisrael you have those type of shaila. But anyways, so
then they sold it on eBay.
Right, or whatever on those other new auction, the new auction houses where they sell the same one that sells the Satmar Rebbe's pants. Yeah,
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I was going to text you before the Shia that ticket I told you about from MJ's first game.
Yeah,
I mentioned it to you last week. They sold it for $468,000. The guy got.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. 460,000 for a stub. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, everything's digital now, maybe, so that's why there's no stubs anymore. Okay, whatever it is.
Yeah, but you can get an NFT. Yeah. An unused.
NFT. I'm sorry, you're right, Akiva. You're right.
What do you mean? You can make even more money.
Taking it over. Yeah. So anyway, so it seems like the reason why the guy who picks it up says, "Who is this Eisvarf who drops his clothing if he's trying to be tahar?" So if he doesn't care, so I don't care. So there could be a lapse of shmira for a short amount of time. That's what it seems. So the chazaka, a person doesn't watch what's in his friend's hands. V'loi, so one says v'loi on Talmud Beis now. Vatanya, right? We have a kasha. Yeah. Haresha hayu chamarov. Hold on a second. Hold on.
No, it comes with cats. Let me see.
How do I mute?
I think
Paris. Here it is. Hold on. I figured it. No, I have.
Yeah,
I have
I
the
think
control.
that's
whoever the control.
That's Punja. Yeah. Okay, I'm muted. Okay, good. Yeah. So Vatanya Aresha you Chamarov a pile of tune and tyrus. So if somebody has his workers, Chamarov doesn't mean his Chamar. It means the Chamar drivers who Rashi says are Amaratzim, right? And they're carrying your tyrus. Yeah. Rashi says you're carrying barrels. You're shipping your barrels from people with the Amaratzim. Even though they end up a mill away from the owner, Tyrus of Tyrus is the Tyrus are still Tyrus. Right? What if he says to them, "Go, now I'm going to come after you." Since he loses, they go away from his eyesight. Tyrus of Timaeus, his Tyrus are Tameh, right? So you see that as long as he has his vision, even though somebody else is holding onto the barrels, as long as they're within his vision, it's considered tar. But once he tells them, "Go and I'm going to catch up to you," then it's already out of his vision, so it's going to be tameh. Yeah. So the Mishna ratio, Mishna seifa. Why in the ratio? What's the difference? Right. According to you, even in the ratio, it should be puzzle. not puzzle. Yeah, tame. It should be tame because somebody else is not going to watch it with the same zrizas or whatever, the same care that you are. The Reish is talking about where he actually made them go to the mikveh. Right? That's a new from a way. You want to be employed by this shipping company, you got to go to the mikveh first. Right? So that's like with the sheikhtim. You can't find chasida shechita anymore that does the shechita without making the sheikhtim go to the mikveh in the morning. Right? So ihachi sefer nami. So that's the case. So the sefer also, they went to the mikveh. It says ein amoritz makvid al maga chaverei. So the amoritz is not makvid on if his friend touches it, meaning they themselves are tar, but they want on their way they might let the friend touch it. Okay, so the obvious question is ihachi reisha nami. So the reisha also maybe they're going to let him touch it. So babolem derech hakalosa. No, the reisha is talking about where they know that there's a shortcut that the boss could take. They know the boss could take a shortcut and catch him at any time. So there's a fear. So since there's a fear, he's not. We're not going to be. It's considered shmira. So yachi sefer nami. The sefer also is talking about where there's a shortcut. Now the answer is kivu damalu lechuv ani avay acharechem. Go and I'm going to come after you. Mismach samchat datayu. They already have smichas daas. They're already sure that he's not showing up, and they can let their friends touch the wine. Right? So this comes up a lot in most of our houses when you're leaving a shiksa alone or workers, non-Jews in your house, right? So you're not allowed to leave a guy alone in your house. Then the wine is going to be a problem and your kitchen is going to be treif. And there's a mistake that people make and they just leave the goyim and they say, I'm coming back in a couple of hours. If you do that, your house is treif according to the Ikadin. The house is mama's treif. So what you have to do is you have to say, I'm going out for a minute or two or whatever. I'm going out for a few minutes and then I'll be back. But if you constantly do it every day where you're not coming back, and they realize that, then you have a problem with the kashrus of your house. So there always has to be a fear. Even if that's what the Gemara is saying here. If they think that there's a shortcut and the guy may come at any time, so then it's going to be considered a good shmira. But if the guy says, go ahead of me, and so then they already realize he's not coming anytime soon, then the tahara status gets lost. So you have the same problem in the house. You have the same problem in the house. There has to always be a fear. So some people nowadays put in movie or whatever, video cameras and stuff like that. Avi Sante shuts down his kitchen, which is also eitzah, meaning he has a Shabbos clock that will shut off the electricity, so then she can't possibly cook in the house. That's also an eitzah, which I haven't heard too many people do that eitzah. But we got to give Avi credit where credit is due. Anyways, yeah, so that's the practical halacha to take out from this. All right, hadron halacha ain't darshan. L'chaim to all those. The Perek is on a flight, so l'chaim to all those making l'chaims. Yeah, fine. Then we start with the next Perek. So this next Perek is also a continuation of full Tumah and Tahara. So basically what we've been saying is that Tumah and Tahara, there's levels, right? There's Chulin, there's Ma'aseh Sheni, there's Terumah, Kodesh, and then there's Mechatos, right? So the two main ones that are Negei are Chomar, is Kodesh and Terumah. So this Mishna is going to count off 10 or 11, depending on how you learn the Gemara, 10 or 11 different things that Kodesh they made 10 or 11 chumras in hektish than in Terumah, right? And the Mishnah goes through the list. Yeah, so Chomar b'Kodesh b'Terumah, Kodesh is more strict than Terumah. Shematvilin kelim b'say kelim the Terumah. When you're going to the mikveh, you want to do a lot of kelim. We'll discuss this as tomorrow, right? But when you go into the mikveh, you're too lazy to toivel one kli at a time. So you want to pile them all into one kli and you put it into the mikveh. So if you're toiveling for hektish, then you're not allowed to do that. If you're toiveling for Terumah, you are allowed to do it, right? Avaloy lekodesh. So for Terumah it works, but not for kodesh. Achurayim b'toich ubeisat tzvita b'Terumah. This basically a utensil could have an outside and an inside, and then a beisat tzvita is like some sort of handle, right? So for a Terumah, if one part of it becomes tamei, the other part of it doesn't necessarily become tamei. But for kodesh, once tumah touches one, then the rest of it becomes tamei. I think the mashal with that is like a Swiss Army knife, that you have different knives that come out. So if it touches for Terumah, if it touches one knife, doesn't mean the other knives are going to be Tameh. But for Kodesh, if one becomes Tameh, then the rest become Tameh. Fine. Hanoisi has some medrash. Somebody's carrying a medrash. A medrash is basically, we discussed it, but we said anything that a zav or a nida or a zava steps on, like it could be a shoe, it could be a doormat, it could be a mattress, it could be a chair, anything like that is automatic tumah. So if you carry that, then you're going to become tameh. So yeah, so nice as a truma, avaloy as a kodesh. So somebody's carrying the shoe. Let's keep it simple. The way Rashi says it, a shoe of a zav. So you're carrying in one hand, you're carrying the shoe of a zav, and in the other hand, you're carrying truma. That's allowed. We're not afraid that the two are going to touch. Avaloy as a kodesh, but you're not allowed to carry hektish. Big day oichlin, truma. Big day oichl. I'm sorry, big day oichle truma. The begodim of oichle truma is medrash l'kodesh. It's a medrash for kodesh, but not for. It's not obviously not for truma. So fine. Like midas a kodesh, midas a truma, and the vida of kodesh is not like vida of truma. So the kodesh mater umanagav umatul v'achar kodesh. So this is talking about toiveling clothing, right? Clothing back then became tameh. So they had to toivel clothing. Let's say it had a knot in it. So do you have to untie the knot? So by kodesh, you have to actually untie the entire knot to make sure there's no chatzitza. But truma, kosher v'achakach matzel. But by truma, you can actually tie the knot and then be toivel it. We're not so worried about the chatzitza. The Gemara is going to discuss what the difference is. Fine. Kalim hande. I'm not keeping track here. I'm not keeping count of what number we're up to. But kalim hande gemara and betara. Kalim that were finished betahara, meaning you finished making a utensil and it was done betahara. You made sure you were tar. Tzrichen tvila l'kodesh. Then you're gonna, if you're gonna use it for hektish, then you have to toivel it. Avaloy l'truma. If you're using it for truma, since you know that you're tar, then that's good enough. Hakli mitzar masha b'saycha l'kodesh, and a kli combines everything that's in it for kodesh. Meaning, if you have a plate full of pieces of chicken, right, and something tameh touches one piece of chicken, so for hektish, that whole thing is going to be considered tameh. But for truma, it's not. It's going to go with rishon, sheni, shlishi, in the usual ways. Yeah, haravi b'kodesh puzzle. This we discussed earlier on Amud Aleph. The kodesh has a ravi, meaning you have 4 levels of tumah. You have rishon, sheni, shlishi, ravi. Shlishi b'truma, but by truma it only goes 3 levels. The 4th level is going to be perfectly fine. Ubetruma, im nitmeis achas miyadav. By truma, if one hand becomes tameh, chaver to tahira, the other hand is still tar, right? Ubekodesh matvil shteyan. But by kodesh, you have to be toivel one. Shayan metamas chaver to bekodesh, because one hand will be metama, another hand for kodesh. We'll discuss that too. So that's like when you're sitting in besmerish and you touch your shoe by mistake with one hand. So you have to go wash both hands. You have to rub both hands. You only rub one hand, right? But not for truma. For truma, it's each hand is considered separate. Fine. Eichlin neguvim b'yadayim v'sovas. But truma, you're allowed to eat dry food with dirty hands with truma. Right, like we discussed that food cannot become tameh unless it first gets wet. Right. So what? But let's say this food is dry, but you have dirty hands. So all you need to happen is it gets a little wet, and you touch it with your dirty hands, and it became tameh. So for truma, you're allowed to eat truma that was never made wet, which can't become tameh, with dirty hands, even though there's a high risk of something happening. But we don't say that for kodesh.
Is it because water is a conductor of tumah?
Yeah, that's. I don't know.
Is that what it is? Why wet?
No, because once it's wet, even though it dries afterwards, it still is makabel tumah.
Really?
It's really like it's there in the.
What do you mean? Yeah. If there's a dry fruit, if it was a dry fruit, it was wet at one point.
No, that's a dry fruit.
Not a dry fruit. I'm saying a dry fruit.
I understand. You dried it. Right?
Yeah, it was once wet. Every fruit was once wet. It was outside on a tree.
No. That's we're talking about the din that we were discussing yesterday. That when it's actually wet, then you have a problem.
Right, because
that has nothing to do with this. This is a different. This is din in tumah and tahara.
Right, but I'm saying it's tumah because of the wetness. You just said it.
Correct, but there's a different din than what we've been discussing, like when you're eating a pickle because it's soaked in liquid that you have to wash your hands.
What's the difference?
That's because right then and there it's wet. So the wet can make the hands into shniyas, and that can automatically make the fruit tummy because your hands get wet, and then that's how it transfers.
And now
this is something else. This is that fruit and food cannot become tummy unless it was washed in water, even if it dries. That's not negated to us nowadays because unfortunately we don't have tummy. We don't have we don't have it. Fine. And then the last case is an einin and mechusar kippurim. An einin is somebody who lost a relative, right? And Rashi points out it's an einin who did not become tummy mace. Mechusar kippurim, and somebody who is missing his kapara, meaning he was tummy, and now he became tar, but he has to wait to bring the carbon the next day. So those two, tzrichen tvila l'kodesh, if they're going to want to eat hektish, even though be'etzem they're tar, if they're going to want to eat hektish, they need to be toivel themselves. Avaloi l'truma, but if they want to eat truma, they're not allowed. They're allowed to eat it without going to the mikvah again. Meaning they went to the mikvah on the day 7. You're going to have to go again on day 8 in order to eat hektish, but they're not going to have to go again in order to eat truma. Okay, so there's 11 cases. Obviously, as we go through the Gemara, we'll chazer over each one of those cases. Again, just again, it seems like the Olam wants to do the siyum on Purim. So Aaron Kaplan is going to put out there on the chat, just if the Olam could please answer if they would prefer it with 3 options, not on Purim the siyum, or getting together Purim night. Aaron will put out the options. Purim night, for a siyum and the daf and whatever, the first night Purim, or sometime Purim day, maybe a breakfast. But the Olam could please answer so we want to try and get as many people in as we can, and Purim's a busy time. So appreciate that.
What's the overall consensus right now? Purim night?
I don't know, there isn't, because there's no voting. It hasn't been any votes yet, so I don't care.
The voting hasn't been opened up yet.
We didn't open it up to the public yet.
Aaron, you have to post.
We're talking about pre-gaming.
But Draft King is taking bets, so you can.
Are they offering a match? If they're offering a match,
I don't know. Okay, maybe we should put that out there for
I want to hedge. Who wants to hedge with me?
Hedging. He's hedging already.
But if the item is we're not putting. I think Aaron's not putting it out on the chat. Like this, people cannot. People can answer. Sometimes people don't want to be that guy that says it doesn't work for me. So
right, but you can't answer in the chat anyways. You have to.
No, I'm saying he could open up the chat. He could open the chat, but then there's people that don't want to be like that guy.
Just we'll
Aaron, don't open the chat. Just say reply privately.
That's what I'm gonna do.
That's what he knows. That's what he's gonna do.
I'll put it out tonight later, Mr. Shem.
But the
post it on the chat, but let everyone reply privately.
What's the options? What's the 2 options or 3 options?
Well, we could have a regular siyum next week. We could have a regular siyum next week, Tuesday night. Standard siyum with your wife's desserts.
Right.
There you go. Right. Yeah. Or we could have.
Jacob, 1 second. He's going to call his wife, and you can say it again. Hold on 1 second.
She doesn't tell me anymore when she makes it because I ate too many on the way there all the time. So she drops it off now.
Sounds like my wife too.
And then
the other option
Purim night,
is Purim by night.
No?
Most
after Megillah is late. No,
as a masiach,
but everybody's looking. It's a masiach. Everybody's looking to do something Purim night. So that would probably be the then if not Purim night, then what do you call it? Purim day, either a breakfast or maybe in the afternoon or maybe after Purim, whichever. But Pashtus is it'd be Purim night or sometime Purim day, either before people sudas. After, I can't imagine after.
But Jacob, why don't we push it off to like after Purim time and make a real nice siyum?
Or do it before Purim. We have 2 weeks.
No, because Purim is, Kabbalah Satira. Purim is the time you do siyum. People do siyum. Whatever. If we want, the island wants to push it over, we do that too. I mean, for that price, we can do it earlier too. Why we got to wait till after Purim?
Why do we have to push it over?
Maybe we should do a nice siyum. Forgetting about Purim.
Well, we want to do that with Purim. We want to make a nice siyum on Purim.
No, he's saying a separate
deal. In Purim.
He's saying a separate deal. Purim's a crazy time. I mean, a busy time.
Yeah,
no?
I know, but the bottom, but right. So that's why Purim night was suggested. Purim night. Most people don't have much going on Purim night.
Right, but let's say people that are going to be out of town, for instance, they're not going to come in for Purim night.
Right, so that's but I don't know if they're coming in anyway. So that's part of the voting. That's part of the voting.
Are you going to be makpid on the Magen Avraham or not?
I tell you what, I have an eitzah around the Magen Avraham. I'll break the fast. I'll break the fast with him. Well, we did it yesterday. Naftali.
Oh, you see?
The Magen Avraham says you should eat. You should dafka eat.
Naftali, you can't come on over here and just say what happened.
Yeah.
Naftali, I see you're back for the end of the invite. That's very good.
I'm always listening. I'm always listening.
Smart.
Yeah.
Aaron, you see what he's doing here?
He doesn't want to be the guy who just shows up for the Siyum. He's got to come the week before.
I think it's too early for that. A whole
There's
week.
plenty of guys who are there. They're Siyum guys.
It's too
I don't
early
even know
for
if they
him.
learn
A
a
whole
blasted
week.
word.
Yeah, I don't want to be. I don't want to be a CM guy. I don't want to be just a CM guy.
Jacob, you got to stop the recording for a second.
Why, you want to say something about me?
About
Say it in
No,
public.
not about you. I gotta say a good story. Happened to be today at
Xylem?
7-Eleven. You.